Progress.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 4th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. I'm First Selectman Colin Mull, and I call this meeting to order. Everyone, please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, before we start public comment, I'd like to just do a brief moment of silence for our recently departed former fire chief, Tom Belmore, who passed away this morning. Thank him for his decades of service and duty to the town. All right, at this point, I will open up the floor to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Just raise your hand if you've got any public comment. Mr. White, if you just state your name and address, please.
Bob White, 995 Newgate Road. Nearly 4 years ago, and again nearly 2 years ago, Suffield's Republican selectmen took the unprecedented action of removing members from the Library Commission. At the time, one of you stated that the Library Commission doesn't do anything. Let me bring up 6 things that the Commission used to do. There was a subcommittee on KML's overdue long-term plan. There was a subcommittee that focused on improving KML staff morale. In January of every year, a staff member was elected to act as recording secretary. That person was removed by you selectmen. In January of every year, members of the Personnel Subcommittee would do a performance evaluation of the library director. All 4 people who had ever done this were removed by you selectmen. In January of every year at a separate meeting, members of the Personnel Subcommittee would work with the library director to set library goals for the upcoming calendar year. The 4 people who had experience doing this were all removed by you selectmen. Number 6, decisions were always made at an open public meeting with minutes reflecting decisions made. The recent decision to bring up the proposed new policies were either made by one person or by multiple people at an illegal meeting. No minutes. Likewise, the decision to not continue pushing for these policies was made by one person or at an illegal meeting. None of these 6 important things is being done in this new library commission that you Republican selectmen created.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room? Just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Kristen Keene, 820 Copper Hill Road. I'm here tonight to address the Board of Selectmen regarding your continuing actions that cater only to the right and do not take into account the political makeup of Suffield. This does not effectively address the concerns of all the voters. For the past several years, the BOS has been appointing commissioners based almost solely on political affiliation and seemingly never taking into account the importance of actual qualifications of the candidates. This has resulted in the past 6 appointees quickly exiting the Library Commission, while Fred Schweitzer, a supremely qualified candidate, is passed over again and again. I would remind the board that this country and our town is governed by a system of representative democracy, which means you are elected to serve all the people, not just the ones who voted for you. While the Republicans have the majority on the board, they do not have absolute power, although this is the way they behave. In the words of British historian Lord Acton, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This abuse of power is obvious, despicable, and has resulted in a public perception of corruption. You need to remember why you were elected. It's not about picking teams or chasing ideological purity. It's about what actually works. My belief that if people could embrace this approach more often, we've built a world that's more effective, fairer, and less dominated by feel-good misconceptions that sound right but cause real harm. I urge you to take the actions that are morally right. Actions are morally right if they produce the greatest good for the greatest number of people. While the appointment of a new member to the Library Commission is not on the agenda tonight, I am sure that is by design and not by accident. The truth is that at least two highly qualified people have stepped up and asked to be appointed, and yet the fact that no appointment is scheduled is further indication of an abuse of power. All of the commission should reflect the voter makeup of this community. It should not consist of a Republican majority when the Republican voters only comprise about a quarter of this population. I am sure none of us wants to repeat the embarrassing press coverage Suffield received as the result of trying to enact a library policy that was in violation of the Constitution of the United States. I ask that you consider the good of the whole community in appointing people whose knowledge and expertise will result in commissions making decisions that will benefit all the residents of the town of Suffield. For these reasons, once you decide to address this vacancy, I endorse Fred Schweitzer and ask that you appoint him to the Kent Memorial Library Commission, where his qualifications will benefit the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Francis? Could you just state your name again?
Sure. Ann Franzik, 31 Greendale Drive. On April 8th, our citizens said a resounding no to the proposed illegal policy advanced by a few members of the Suffield Library Commission limiting the freedom to read in our town. It's clear that parents want control over what their children read. Their families do not need the supposed protection of a few stride members of the Library Commission. How timely that today, on June 4th, both branches of our Connecticut State Legislature passed Senate Bill 1271, ensuring that library shelves remain open to all. As Ellen Paul, director of the Connecticut Library Consortium, stated, this bill protects a library's ability to carry books like the Bible as much as it protects books about gender identity, because it's not about who is right, but rather the right to be heard, the right to think, and the right to choose. So clearly, the makeup of the Kent Memorial Library Commission needs to better reflect the sentiment of our townspeople. In short, we need a more balanced commission. Dr. Fred Schweitzer, a highly qualified educator who has resided in Suffield for many years, has been nominated 4 times to be a member of the Library Commission. This nomination will represent the 5th time his name has been advanced. Fred Schweitzer was VP for Academic Affairs and Provost of the University of Hartford, served as chair of the Library Facilities Master Planning Committee and Associate Dean of the College of Education, Nursing, and Allied Health Professions. He hired several library directors in his role. I am also privileged to currently serve on the Hartford Foundation's Advisory Committee of the Suffield Greater Together Community Fund, myself, of which Fred is currently the chair. I can speak firsthand to his leadership skills, his conscientiousness, his fairness, and his overwhelming kindness. Fred believes the Kent Memorial Library exists to serve the needs of all the citizens of our town. I therefore implore the Board of Selectmen to listen to the will of the townspeople and name Fred Schweitzer to the Library Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room? Sorry. Can you just state your name and address, please?
My name is Cheryl St. Cyr Belle Isle. I live at 170 Mountain Road, and that, I'm gonna move back here because the sun is right in my face and I can't see any of you. Thank you, Neil.
Problem solved.
In spite of this not being an agenda item, I too want to address the vacancy on the KML Commission just the same. I'd like the board to please hear the recommendations tonight to appoint Fred Schweitzer to this vacancy. Being the parent of 2 adult children, both in academia, I know firsthand what access to good library services means to any community. This isn't Fred's first time, as we've already heard, putting his name forward for this opening. It speaks to his tenacity and his commitment to service. His credentials speak for that too, and you've already heard about them, so I won't repeat it. He has a broad academic and professional background covering human resources and community outreach, to name only a couple. Libraries need to be places of peace, learning, and access to resources. Right now, when our culture is so divided, we need to come together as one and ensure that our library, Kent Memorial, can be that place of enlightenment that so many seek. Adding Fred to our KML commission can only keep that process of making us a leader in how to make this library a place like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw a hand in the back.
My name's Ross Davis. I'm at 42 Wisteria Lane. I'm not here to talk about a library, although I don't disagree with any of them. I'm here to talk about our cul-de-sac, which has been in disrepair for over 3 years. It's caused water displacement problems. It has ripped up yards. It has really caused a lot of dust and damage to our vinyl siding that is actually unfortunately hard to get off even with pay for someone to power wash. They blew it through our cul-de-sac about 5 years ago. They ripped up the road about 4 years ago, and they have not repaired the road in 4 years. And it's caused tires have been blown. It has caused multiple potholes, alignment damage to cars. And now they have put rocks on the road, which smoothed it out a little bit, and now it's pretty much Mario Kart on our street, which is, we have people, not that I know the exact, I don't have a clock, but people are seeing going 70-ish miles an hour down that road. There's a bunch of young kids. And we have called and asked the town multiple times, so when is this cul-de-sac going to be done? When is it going to be paved? And there's supposed to be an island in there. I realize there's some dispute between the builder and the town of who owns that thing, but we were, as a community, we were guaranteed some sort of island or barrier or some sort of speed deterrent in that area. And we are not getting any answers. We're not getting communication. One of our neighbors here has driveway completely blocked by construction vehicles with no communication to them. So we're just looking for some advocacy for Wisteria Lane and the cul-de-sac. It used to be a cul-de-sac. It was blown through to create a new neighborhood. Unfortunately for us, but that is what it is. But the town does owe us the responsibility to take care of that road and for the houses that are on that cul-de-sac to have respect for the damage that is caused, the disruptions that is caused, and for the neighborhood to do something about creating a barrier to deter the speeding. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Mr. Ornish.
I'm not kidding.
Good evening, Neil Hornish, for All Avenue. Speaking tonight based on an assumption that the reason why the vacant library commission seat isn't being discussed tonight is probably because the Republican Town Committee has yet to put forth a candidate for this board to appoint. 5 Republican Library Commission members who were appointed since 2022 have resigned. 5 resignations over 3 years. By comparison, over the last 8 years, 1 unaffiliated member resigned after completing a full term, and 1 Democrat member resigned within a month or 2 of completing her full term. And this doesn't include members who were subsequently elected to other boards. It's previously been established that for the Library Commission, at the very least, appointments have been based primarily on party affiliation. And for Library Commission, what has that gotten our community? It's gotten an unusually high number of resignations and a draft policy that, if it were to now be passed, would not only invite lawsuits against the town, but it would violate state statutes. Fred Schweitzer and Tess McCool have repeatedly put forth their name for consideration for the Library Commission. There's absolutely no doubt that they are highly qualified to serve on that role. And I believe appointing Fred or Tess would improve the professionalism and the stability of the Library Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what, Ms. Fry, you were up here first. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, everyone. Brian Fry, 43 Wisteria Lane. First, thank you to the Board of Selectmen for your service and your volunteership. I'm speaking to, like Mr. Davis, to the matter of the cul-de-sac. It was over 4 years ago that I was approached by our then engineer in town. Came, stopped by the house and extended to me her apologies for the cul-de-sac having been milled prematurely. It wasn't intended to. I understood the oversight and appreciate that she came forward to me. I asked her what the resolution would be. She said it'd be fixed in roughly a year and asked for my patience. It's been over 4 years. Since then, construction has gone on. Mr. Mole has been a good communicator with me with regards to the installation of a traffic circle. I circulated a petition and met the town statute mandates around number of community members that wanted that traffic circle and was met with overwhelming support of it. So it would appear that it's going to happen and go forward. Unfortunately, more recently, the remainder of the pavement in the cul-de-sac has been ripped up. We were excited at first. There was lots of equipment, there was motion and seemingly forward progress, but things quickly stalled out. Our Department of Public Works, Lee, has, to his credit, communicated with me, answered my phone calls, met with me on site, and shared with me what he could about the issues that they were dealing with. These are matters I don't entirely understand as I'm a medical person, not an engineer, and that sheeting of water from the cul-de-sac is the greater concern right now. Like Mr. Davis explained, it's been a mess there, and we've been enduring it for a long time. The front of my wife's car, the front bumper is torn, and I'm pulling chunks of gravel out of it. I've picked up nails. There's gravel on my lawn. It works its way into the garage and into the house. The siding's covered with dirt. It's been an absolute mess. So whatever the matter may be, whether it be the contractor who's responsible, whether it be Department of Public Works that's responsible, frankly isn't my concern or my worry. It's a problem that needs to be solved. And so after a long time waiting, we're coming to you, some members of my community are here to speak to this matter, asking that you please intervene. If you deem it responsible to communicate with Mr. Donnelly, our town attorney, to be an intermediary, if that's what it may take. This is an issue that needs resolution. We can't go into another fall and winter season where they're trying to clean up snow and where we're dealing with more potholes. It's a colossal mess, and we're here after an extended period of patience asking for your help with this. So I'll conclude by saying that I would appreciate hearing back from a member of this board or a designee to know what resolution we can expect going forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Susan, hand in the back.
Mike Maciolo, 44 Wisteria Lane. I'm not going to bore you guys with any more of this. I just want to say, mirroring Brian and Ross's statements, I urge any one of you to just drive down there and see how bad it is, and to think that when you're going over this big cliff to get into the cul-de-sac, this is the best it's looked probably in the past 6 months. So at one point, there was a mud pit in there where cars were getting stuck. Brian forgot to say his mailbox has been on his lawn for the past 3 weeks. So it's not even installed anymore because they ripped it up and never put it back in. So with that said, just urge you guys to take a drive and just see what we're dealing with. I moved in 2020, and it got ripped up in March, and it's been that way ever since. So thank you for your time.
Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi, Senator Janik, 380 Prospect Street. And I also wish to speak about the open seat on the Kent Memorial Library Commission. I could stand here and repeat all of the things that you've heard about how Dr. Schweitzer is eminently qualified to occupy this seat. You've heard these things for months on end now. I certainly can't sing his praises any more eloquently than those folks who have come before me. Tonight, though, I come to you with an ask. Instead of talking about Dr. Schweitzer's qualifications, I choose to ask you something instead. And I'm not speaking just for myself. I'm speaking for all those folks who came out in those multiple meetings the last 4 times Dr. Schweitzer was overlooked for this commission. All of the folks who came here and spoke on his behalf, who sent emails, who called, who sent text messages, who made Facebook posts, who sent in petitions. Please, just listen, I don't know how to say this any clearer. My question is real simple, and my ask is real simple. If you should, I'm not tonight, I know, I don't think anything's happening tonight, but when you make your decision, should you choose once again to overlook Dr. Schweitzer for this position, my ask is this. I would like to know specifically, and I do mean specifically, what is it about Dr. Schweitzer's extensive academic background, his very notable professional career, his very open and willing and helpful community service? What about all of that do you find lacking? Or does something about that, or is it, what has he done to offend you? Is he offending you now? Has he done something? What specific skill set is he lacking? Communication skills? Leadership skills? Negotiation skills? Where does he fall short? What specifically is that magic quality you're looking for? Because clearly you're looking for something. I need to understand this because from my perspective, where I stand, you're not going to find a more qualified candidate than Dr. Schweitzer, or a more committed candidate to this neighborhood, to this community. But let's make this real easy. If you took the credentials of Dr. Schweitzer, his credentials and his qualifications, and you put them side by side, and let's make it easy, the last 3 candidates you appointed, and you put their qualifications side by side next to Dr. Schweitzer's, and you blocked out the names or any reference so you don't know who they are, and you present them to a panel of people other than yourself, who do you think would come out? If you looked at the job description and the qualifications, who do you think would come out on top? I ask you, honestly ask yourself that question. Where does Dr. Schweitzer fall short? This library, this whole commission, our library should not be political. A library is so much more than a building with books in it. It is so much more a part of a community, and it should serve every single person in this community. Not just part of us, not just the Democrats, not just the Republicans or the unaffiliated. It needs to serve every single person, regardless of those things. And regardless of how they identify, it needs to serve them as well. So I'm asking you, please do the right thing. Appoint the most qualified candidate to this library commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment in the room? Beth?
Beth Honey, 37 Wisteria, and I'm not going to belabor the comments or points that my neighbors did. The only thing I would add is the whole reason why they said that the cul-de-sac had to be broken through to the new neighborhood were for safety and emergency vehicles. As it stands now, if you were to drive down there, I don't know, the police cars would also have problems with tires and all that kind of stuff. So we're not only talking about inconvenience and how it looks and property damage, but it's also emergency and safety issue.
All right, thank you. All right, any other public comment in the room? All right, seeing none, I'll move to Zoom. Is there any public comment on Zoom? Just raise your hand. I see 1 hand raised, 2 hands. Robert Henry.
Hi, I'm not sure why my picture just disappeared. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, then the picture's back, good. So, I'm not going to go into great detail because so many other people have done that and done it quite eloquently, but I would also like to recommend very strongly that when you do finally consider who to appoint to the Kent Memorial Library Commission, that you appoint Fred Schweitzer. His qualifications are impeccable. He is a hard worker. He adores this community and knows it well, and I don't think you could find a better candidate. Also 12 Pheasant Lane, Suffield. Thank you.
Ms. McCool. Ms. McCool, can you hear us?
Hi, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry about controversial draft policy presented in March not only cast Suffield in a poor light, but also put a target on our library staff, who were subjected to threatening phone calls, voicemail, and even an in-person confrontation. It's clear that the current direction of the Library Commission is causing more harm than good. Our library and our community deserve better. I hope the Board of Selectmen will take this opportunity to appoint someone who can help restore trust and transparency and who is committed to the library's mission. This vacancy is a chance to move in a new direction, one that reflects the values and priorities of the community. And it's clear that Suffield residents are not comfortable with political agendas influencing the work of the commission. As you know, this is my 5th time also expressing interest in serving in the commission. And I would be honored to serve, but I also believe Fred Schweitzer would be an outstanding choice. He is thoughtful, principled, and widely respected. I kindly ask that you appoint someone who will uphold the mission of the library, act in good faith, and collaborate with staff and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Let's scroll up real quick. All right, seeing none, I'll move on to agenda item number 3, discussion and approval of the minutes from the May 21st, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
This is Kathy Harrington. I move that they be adopted as drafted.
All right, motion has been made. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 4 is discussion and approval to appoint Joanne Moriarty to Amplify through May 31st, 2026.
Kathy Harrington, so moved.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Could she, she's in new youth services, could she come to a meeting?
Yeah, bring it. Item number 5 is discussion and approval to appoint Susan Keene as a full member of the Ethics Commission to fill the remainder of Carol Martin's term through June 30th, 2027.
Kathy Harrington, so moved.
All right, the motion has been made once again by Kathy. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 6 is discussion and approval to appoint an alternate member to the Ethics Commission to fill the remainder of Susan Keene's term through June 30th, 2026. I did receive a recommendation, as I shared with you, from the RTC to appoint Brendan Malone, former RTC chair member and Planning and Zoning member. I didn't receive anything from the DTC. I typically wait up to 90 days for everyone to send their recommendations. At that 90-day point, we might be short by 8 days, but we don't have another meeting until August, so I figured it was appropriate to move forward either way.
So this is Kathy Harrington. I would move that we appoint Brendan Malone as an alternate member to the Ethics Commission to fill the remainder of Susan Keene's term through June 30th, 2026.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to state for the record that I know Brendan. I think he's, I was very excited when I saw that he was stepping up for this position. He was, as Colin mentioned, co-chair of the RTC in the past. He was an excellent member of Planning and Zoning, and when his wife had their children, he had to take a step back from town involvement. And I'm glad to see him kind of putting himself back out there. He's a great guy. He's very smart. He's very collaborative. He works well with everyone. He's very disciplined. He's trustworthy, and he has great integrity. So I'm just very excited to see him step up for this commission.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm disappointed that we didn't go a little longer than the way we've done that on other positions. And we've had a candidate from the party. So I'm going to vote against it.
Did you hear at all from DTC?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm asking Colin, did your office hear at all from the DTC?
Yeah, I think in the email they said at one point they didn't.
Tom, do you want me to?
Yeah.
Tom sent an email to us saying that while they had a person of interest, that person was not willing to commit. So at this time, Tom could not put anyone forward.
Would with that, I'm satisfied. We're only 8 days short, and we have no other meeting this month.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-1. Item number 7 is discussion and approval to appoint Lee Corbett as the tree warden. Sue Main, our former tree warden, wasn't seeking reappointment. I put Lee's name there just because he's the DPW director. He's out there making the ultimate decision anyways when it comes to financing and budgeting for removal of the trees. However, in the past, before, when Sue volunteered, it's because I put out a call for anybody who's interested in tree warden. So I won't be opposed to doing it again if this board thought maybe we should do that. I'll tell you, we didn't get any volunteers except Sue, but maybe it'll change, I don't know. Is it worthwhile putting out a call for a month or two?
Is there additional compensation?
We did set aside $2,500 this time around to try to, compensate them. They do have to get certified through the state, which Sue Main had done. So it takes some, I don't recall how long it takes.
A lot of things happened on Main Street with the trees and things like that.
Yeah, she's still, her efforts on the
She's
trees
still
for
going to do
Suffield
that?
is, yeah, she's still the chair
Okay.
running that. That's a whole different
Okay.
skill set there. Any thoughts from anybody?
I'm not opposed to putting Lee as a tree warden, but with the stipend, there might be more interest from people that might want to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe wait till, do we have a meeting in August?
We did. No, we don't have one in July.
So maybe wait till August.
Yeah, I can put it out for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
See what.
Do you want a motion to table it?
Sure, I'll make a motion to table item number 7, discussion approval to appoint Lee Corbett as the tree warden.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Items number 8, 9, 10, and 11 are Terry Farm tax abatements, and I would entertain a motion to approve all as presented.
Kathy Harrington, so moved.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion?
Did you say 8, 9, 10, and 11?
8, 9, 10, and 11.
Okay,
They're
yeah.
all
Okay.
as
I think
presented.
I heard you say.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This is Commissioner Blanco, I just want to abstain from that one due to a family conflict.
Okay, opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. Item number 12 is discussion and approval of the 2026-2029 Police Union Collective Bargaining Agreement. I sent you guys the police tentative agreement that we had signed a couple weeks back with the police union. First of all, I'd like to thank the police union and the collective bargaining members. Steve Egan, their rep, Karen Zamba, our HR director, Lisa Lazaruk, our labor attorney, Lynn Gurnham, our insurance rep, Chief Cannon, and Captain Palmer for all their efforts and work throughout the process. Negotiation process was fairly smooth, and in my opinion, it went great. So some of the highlights, I'll just quickly review. The police will receive a 2.5% wage increase all 4 years. Additionally, they'll receive a police recruitment retention incentive over those 4 years, averaging 0.5%. We've increased their 457 contribution by 0.5%. There's a hazardous duty bonus payment to members that will total $68,000. The union has agreed to the following: removal of town-funded HSA. So previously we funded the HSA for $800 for individual and $1,600 for two-person and family. The addition of tiered cost share structure based off of plan. So in the past, all plans have contributed the same amount. Now people on a two-person plan and a family plan will pay more. And we have formulary changes and pharmacy cost savings, which is the bulk of the savings we'll see in our insurance. And they've exempted the town from paying an officer on road jobs when work is done by a town employee. So we'll be able to use a flagger, which is a much cheaper option. You guys have any questions, concerns?
That's the first time that I recall we didn't go to arbitration.
You're welcome.
I have one question, and it's small. I don't
don't understand why the legal fee, the one a year?
Yeah, so it's something they want, ask they had, would you, it's $100 per
Yeah.
person, that they wanted us to contribute, so we agreed to actually give it to them at a one-time lump sum. It ends up being like $1,700 for the year.
Yeah.
It's just a small
I just
ask.
didn't understand it, I don't.
I think it's just one of those bargaining, you throw everything out
Yeah.
there and see what we can get.
Okay.
We ended up, this was a small gift for them,
Okay.
that we were okay with.
It's Kathy Harrington, I just think he does a great job, and I think I thank the police department and the union for coming in good faith and reaching an agreement. I
Yeah.
think it's great.
Thanks, appreciate it. Definitely thank them for all the work. So, anything else, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Yes, this is Pete Hill. I make a motion to approve the 2026 to 2029 police union collective bargaining agreement.
All right, motion has been made, is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Just a question, why did it start with 26? It goes to the end of this year? It's not
Just on
for
our
fiscal year?
contract, that's how it reads.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, so,
I vote for it.
It was 5-0.
okay, opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 13 is discussion and approval to apply for the Safer Streets for All grant and refer to the Board of Finance. The Safer Streets for All grant is a federal grant designed to assist towns with planning and/or implementation of a broad array of roadway projects that make communities safer for pedestrians and prevent roadway fatalities and injuries. Chief Cannon, Chief Spencer, Chief Cunningham, Lee Corbett, Bill Hawkins, and I have come up with an application to apply for several roadway and pedestrian safety projects that would fall into the grant funding. We're also partnering with East Windsor Ambulance Association in this application. Everybody's here with us tonight, I believe they're in the back, so if you guys want, whoever wants to join us up front here. Bill, it's just you and I. But they're all right behind you, don't worry. So, I sent you guys a memo from Bill that described the project, funding, and initial money needed to proceed. So, Bill, you're here with us?
Yes, I am. But yes, we do have everyone else that you just mentioned, Colin, in the room. So I'll touch on the project at a high level, and if you have specific questions about what the ambulance associations want to do or the police department, they can help answer those questions. But you summarized the grant pretty well. The Safe Streets and Roads for All are SS4A programs offered by the federal Department of Transportation. And there's about $1 billion that's available nationwide for projects and initiatives that will prevent serious injury on roadways for all modes of transportation, pedestrians, bicycles, and of course, motor vehicles. So we have the Department of Public Works, Police Department, Southfield Volunteer Ambulance Association, and then our East Windsor Ambulance Association partners for this application. They would like to apply for a planning and demonstration grant. There's two sort of separate grants under the umbrella of the SS4A, planning and demonstration and implementation grants, and there's a certain amount of funding available for each one. So our ask would be for a planning and demonstration grant for $3 million. Applications are due on June 26th, and these grants require a 20% match, and in-kind hours are an eligible match, and that's what we would propose to do. I'll touch on that in a bit. But the purpose of the grant would be to prevent, death and serious injury from motorists, bicyclists, pedestrians, and each department sort of has their own project under that as a way to achieve that goal. So in terms of the Suffield Volunteer Ambulance Association, in collaboration with the East Windsor folks, there's 3 key initiatives that they would look to do with this grant, and this would be the largest part of the grant funding. So the first part is they would like to get these vehicle transponders that provide real-time digital alerts from emergency vehicles, or also known as HOS alerts. And I had to look this up when Chief Spencer started describing it, because I had no clue what they were. But it's actually pretty cool when I started looking into it. But the purpose of the alerts is these emergency vehicles with these transponders would communicate with civilian cars and other emergency vehicles and please step in if I misspeak, but, you know, if you're driving and you have your navigation apps running, or if you've got a Garmin or something, my understanding is these transponders will communicate with you, let you know that there's an emergency vehicle responding to an accident, or that there's a hazard in the roadway. It's meant to prevent potential collisions, secondary collisions, and be a little bit more effective than traditional sirens and lights. So that would be one part of the project. The other part is innovations in post-crash care. They would look to get funding from this grant to begin a pilot program to provide advanced clinical care before getting to the hospital. And so this would involve things like administrating blood products, blood chemistry testing, supporting early detection for critical conditions like traumatic brain injury as these ambulances respond to accidents and things like that. So funding would be available to support that effort. And then regional collaboration. Both ambulance associations have similar values and organizational structure. They feel they'd be able to work collaboratively with the help of this grant for several different initiatives, including evaluating shared staffing models, joint clinical education, sharing access to resources, basically working together, enhancing post-crash care across agency lines. This would be, again, the largest part of the funding opportunity, and they can answer questions more directly about those individual pieces. The police department, they would look to fund a pilot program for the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices for speed cameras. And again, the overall goal is to reduce speeding and crashes that result in serious injury and death. There are several steps that I outline in the memo on how they would get there, including the need for a town ordinance, a safety plan, traffic safety plan that would have to be approved by the DOT before you get there. But the estimated cost of this part of the project is approximately $373,000, and that would be a 3-year contract once that's up and running for those cameras. Public Works, they would look to fund a school safety zone initiative, which includes the installation of a crosswalk on Mountain Road, generally in the area of the post office, across Mountain Road to the sidewalk in front of McAllister. There would also be those solar-powered rapid flashing beacons, and you're probably familiar with those. They were just installed on 2 crosswalks on Main Street, eventually at the crosswalk in front of Town Hall, and there was 3 sets installed along Mountain Road a couple of years ago on the multi-use trail. Work to get people's attention. Also, the project will include pole-mounted speed signs, digital speed signs near Spalding Elementary and High School, and the estimated cost of this part of the project would be $96,000. So the SS4 application is quite involved. We would be looking to get a third-party consultant to help us submit the application, basically due to limited staff capacity, at the time needed to submit something like this. Chief Spencer was in touch with our former Ambulance Association Director, Art Crew, who now works for a consultant company, Beyond Lucid Technologies. And we would like to work with them to submit the application on behalf of the town. Mr. Brew has experience with this grant. He's gotten several awarded for clients across the country last year or the year before. So, but there is a cost to that. So the financial impact is $10,000 to hire the consultant. When I wrote this, we weren't aware that East Windsor was going to contribute to a quarter of that cost. So the ask from Suffield tonight would be a transfer of $7,500, and that would be used to hire Beyond Lucid Technologies to put the application together. We're suggesting that money come from the contingency fund, the current balance of which is $347,000, and then a bit more on the in-kind and the matching piece of this. So a $3 million grant, 20%, $600,000. In-kind services and hours can account for all of that as the town's match across all the departments that are involved. And I should mention that this can be spent over a 5-year period. So over those 5 years, it's about $120,000 worth of in-kind hours that would be required as a grant match. And so Chief Spencer, just for some context, he estimates that the Ambulance Association averages about $446,000 a year of volunteer in-kind labor. Now, only in-kind hours that are associated with the grant project would count, so not all of that would count. But between the East Windsor Ambulance Association, Suffield, the police department, time spent responding to accidents or related work would count as in-kind hours. So we don't really have a concern about being able to meet that match requirement. And, related work would be, say, somebody, damages a utility pole that needs to be replaced, and the police department sends a cruiser for safety and traffic, directing while that's being replaced. Those hours would count as in-kind hours. So there's a lot of ways to meet that, and then as well as each department, preparing the work that they need to do to get the grant money, and the project going will count as in-kind hours. So we don't think that's going to be an issue. We don't anticipate the use of town funds as a match for this. So other board action, the Board of Finance would need to approve the request to transfer funds to hire the consultant. We would also ask for their approval to apply for the grant. Assuming the Board of Selectmen approves this tonight, we'd be there Monday night at their meeting, seeking their approval. And then there are a couple of recommended motions. I realize the second motion related to the transfer of funds is actually the next agenda item, but also should be amended to read the transfer of $7,500 from contingency. And I put to the first selectman's budget, just came up with that. I don't know if it should be better in someone else's budget, but nonetheless, the request is to transfer from contingency to hire the consultant. So that's the memo, a bit of a high-level overview of what the departments would like to do if awarded this grant, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So, Bill, this is Kathy Harrington. So you think that this gives you enough time if it's due on June 26th?
Yes, we've talked to Art, and he's already doing some background work. He knows it's a bit of a risk until the funding is approved, but he was willing to take that risk. So he's working on it already.
And then my other question is probably better geared towards the police department.
Sure.
I wanted to know if you could speak to or explain so that we can all discuss how the plan for the cameras is different than maybe the camera plan a year or two ago, that the cameras, the speed traffic cameras that was shot down by the Board of Finance. I just want to make sure we're not talking about the same type of cameras, or if we are, if they're different, what they would be.
So the cameras we spoke about previously were license plate reader cameras.
Yes, thank you.
And that was for purposes of identifying vehicles that might be stolen, unregistered, things of that nature, wanted persons. These cameras will specifically be set for a targeted speed, identify a speeding vehicle at whatever that happens to be set at, which is all governed by statute. And then it will begin, it'll identify a speeding vehicle, take a picture of it. It'll be sent to the police department for confirmation that that's the vehicle in the image, and confirmation of the plate belonging on the vehicle and so on. At which point, it would then get sent to a third party for the ticket generation and mailed out to the owner of the vehicle for the speeding violation. All of that is secondary to a whole host and litany of items that have to take place prior to the actual institution of the cameras. Statute's relatively new, within the last year. There's only one town thus far that has operating camera system for speed devices. It's Washington. I think Middletown is right on the cusp of actually heading down that path as well. And that involves a lot of legwork in specificity to a targeted location, a traffic safety plan, presentation to the town meetings on that, identification of a particular location for the cameras to go, which would obviously be a high target area and issue based upon what we're seeing for traffic accidents and things of that nature. And then once the town approves that, then we can submit it to state DOT, at which point they will review it. They have 2 weeks, I believe, to review it, get back to us with a response to either make some modifications or approval or denial. And once that's done, then we're also talking about town ordinances to set up the fee schedule, which is a town fee schedule, so the funding would come back to town. The costs from the tickets are prorated to take care of the third-party costs as well, so there's no additional costs there. The creation of the ordinance would also have to include an appeal system as well, which would also happen to take place at the town.
So the concerns that, if I recall correctly, the Board of Finance, they were talking more about like privacy concerns with cameras, that people might be able to take either pictures like inside a person's vehicle. We wouldn't have that type of concern with this system, correct?
No, I think it's gonna snapshot, it's either a half a dozen photos as it's traveling past the camera, and it's really focused on the vehicle itself, the plate, and
And
so
it's
on.
only activated based on the speed of the vehicle, not every single vehicle going by.
Correct. And by statute, it's 10+ miles an hour over the posted speed limit.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions from board members?
I do on the funding for the ambulance, bill. What was, so it's 373,000 for the police, 96,000 for public works. What would be the funding for the ambulance?
That'd be the balance of the grant. And, you know, I didn't put a number specifically, well, $3 million grant, 600 is a match. So what, about 2 million?
$2 million.
I was saying, after the funds were done, I think what we were looking for was to jointly have about 1.2 million, about 600,000 for each agency over the spread of the 5 years. We didn't put an exact number to it, based off of what the grant writer told us was to go in for the grant application being kind of generic. So we haven't put the full scope of the project together, but that's what we were looking
But roughly 600,000 for each agency.
for each agency, yes.
They really hit on keeping it super broad for the application.
Which, no,
is
I
weird.
understand,
It's
and
different.
the reason why I'm asking is I don't think it's right that East Windsor only puts up 2,500. I think they should do half, because they're gonna get $600,000 at the end of the day. I know it's only $2,500, but, you know, $2,500 is $2,500.
Something to consider.
Let's say, I think the way that, at least I presented the bill, and part of it was that, yes, we're getting 600, they're getting 600, but there's still 1.2 million on the table for the town. So even with the prices that are there yet, this isn't a finalized list of the things that the police department and DPW can do. So at the end of the day, our math put us at 75% coming into the town of Suffield, and only 25% of the funds would be going to East Windsor. So I think that's where that
That,
25%
makes a lot more sense.
contribution.
Then I'm okay. Thank you.
I think that we gotta, I'd be interested to see how many tickets you now start giving out.
A lot.
Once this goes into effect. I have two questions. One, can any of this money be used towards the radios that we need to buy? I mean, because isn't this grant for trying to get emergency vehicles quicker to places for accidents and things like that?
Say,
I think is that the permanent?
I would argue the
Difference
grant can
between-
only be used for demonstration, for temporary installations. It can't be permanent
All right,
installation.
the second suggestion, years ago, it was fairly common, and we did it in town. At the high school, they would do demonstrations with drunk drivers and accidents and things like, they would bring vehicles out. And I haven't heard that been done in a number of years. It definitely had an impact on kids. And I would recommend that we could throw that into the pot. It would be worth looking at.
Sure. All right, something over there. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
So further, we're just looking to see if you guys approve us moving forward with it, and then the next item is actually the financial piece, if so moved by this board.
Would the contingency come out of?
The Board of Finance can make that decision where they want to pull the money from, whether, it's just, it really just needs to sit in a line item
Okay.
somewhere.
So this is Kathy Harrington. I make a motion that we approve the application or approve to apply for the Safer Streets for All grant to refer to the Board of Finance. So,
Yeah, that's fine,
Okay.
because it covers us. Okay.
okay.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Bill, Chiefs, Lee, thanks for all your work on this, and the East
Thank
Windsor Ambulance Association, thanks. All right, so further discussion? I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 14 is discussion and approval to transfer funds for the 2026-2029 Police Union Collective Bargaining Agreement and Safe Streets for All grant and refer to the Board of Finance. So for the Police Union contract, it's $60,000, and then for the Safer Streets for All grant, it's
Kathy Harrington, so moved.
All right, the motion has been made. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 15 is discussion of affordable housing recommendations. So last meeting, we said we would circle back to this discussion, potentially looking further into housing authority expansion as an option. I think it's a great option. I think it's, you know, with the waiting list, the needs we have, the success of our housing authority. I put in my email to you guys, I'd like us to really move forward with consideration of that, and whether that moving forward is with a day-to-day employee, the Affordable Housing Commission, creating a task force, to at least more focused group to look at, you know, what do we need to do there? What's gonna cost? What are the surveys we need? How many units? Can we get an engineer design, something for us to look at and consider more? So I'd like this person or group to at least look at the Bridge Street property, the land behind the senior center that's been identified and town-owned. I think the group needs to include Director Jason Joyce from the Housing Authority, a member of the Housing Authority Commission. And like I said, I tend to go to a lot of their meetings and would be happy to have a discussion with them, a more serious discussion about the expansion of the Housing Authority and what's needed from them. So I'm just looking for your thoughts and suggestions on this. If anybody has.
I think you start there.
Yeah.
Like, I have ideas, but I have no day-to-day knowledge of affordable housing, you know. So I think if you talk to them, see what they think. Personally, I think that if you go behind where the senior housing is now, I think that would be ideal.
Yeah.
You know, in a perfect world, you know, like a little two-story something there. But again, that's just spitballing and throwing an idea out there. But they would know, you know, what direction they want to go, or if they can go, if they can handle it. And obviously, you'll probably, if we do it, we're gonna need more staff and, you know, but I think it's something that's drastically needed. It will get drastically worse in the next decade.
Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
I was just gonna say, I do support, you know, your creation of a task force with those members. My question just was, and I pose this to Bill, is whether, is anybody doing any type of like consulting work, like Glenn Childress, I know I'm brutalizing his name, who helped us with affordable housing, that could help like the task force, like see what to do to get these answers and get it started to assist? So it doesn't fall just on you and like Jason Joyce and a member of the Housing Authority Commission?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there are groups out there that can help us. I mean, if this is a direction that we want to go, I would be, you know, with working with the task force, looking to get some funding for planning, you know, and engineering, and, you know, go through that step to sort of do some analysis of the sites that we want to look at. So we could start there with the discussions, but yeah, there are like Planometrics and some other consultants that might be able to help sort of guide that discussion for the group.
Like
so
what
that-
the next steps are, this is what
Yeah.
you should do, this is what this means, this is what we're looking for, and then if something
Yeah.
comes back like, this is not good, or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, with different ideas, just to help you all.
Right.
Because I know we pile a lot on you, Billy, you do such a great job, but we don't need to keep piling more on you. This way, there's somebody who's done this before, like you said, Art with the other grant, he knows what he's doing, he
Right.
can put it together. So, I definitely support it as long as we kind of give the group and Bill support with the consultant.
I love the consultant
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I would just add that we look into, I can't remember what was said, but there's 20 acres, Bill, adjacent to the housing right now.
Oh, the private property?
It's private.
Private property.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Bill
that
Hawkins here,
we
yeah,
look at
20 acres.
getting some of that land. If there's a way to buy it, some back there, it seems reasonable enough to get it so that we could put a sizable number of units in there, given how many people every year we're always got on the waiting list. And then we also look at a structure of 2-3 stories, not just one level like we have now.
Yeah, no, those are all good thoughts, Mel. You know, I mentioned when I was here last time, I think the property is about 24 acres or so.
Something like, yeah.
But it's privately owned, so we have to approach the owners and see what they say.
I think he could be approached.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're thinking task force, we're thinking expansion of housing authority. Let's see how much money we need to get that process going.
And have them look at, I think the
Is it
property on
feasible?
Bridge Street,
Yep.
the one next to the housing authority, and potential private property, but that would have to be bought. That, to me, is like the third option. I think we should focus more on town-owned property, just since we own it already.
I'm sorry, look
I
at
think we
what?
should focus on town-owned property, since
Okay.
we already own it, but I do think we could inquire.
I mean, I think we start there, right? And we know how many units we need to hit for the state, right? And if we can't really get it through that, maybe we consider private property. But let's see what we can
Yeah,
get with what we have.
just that it's in the back there.
Yeah.
So, but the other thought in my mind is the more units you can put there, the more community kind of feeling they have. You create a community for them there too. And I think there's some value in that for the people that live there.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we have a direction.
Yep.
All right, I'll move forward with that.
Okay.
Pete, you have
You
something
need a
else you're
motion
thinking
or-
about? No.
No.
Thanks, Bill.
No.
Thanks, Bill.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda and add 15A, discussion and approval of flying the pride flag on June 19th, one day only.
All right, the motion has been made to add to the agenda. What was it, June 19th?
Yep.
No, it doesn't need a second yet. So motion, discussion and approval to fly the pride flag on June 19th?
Yep.
As an agenda item. All right, so you want to add that to the agenda?
I do.
Okay. Motion has been made, is there any discussion?
I think it's a wonderful idea and,
Well, really, we're just talking about adding it to the agenda.
oh, okay. Sorry.
We can go with, yeah, all right. So, no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 15A is discussion of approval to fly the pride flag on June 19th. So Pete, what are you thinking, like on the flagpoles?
Yep. I know that we have an established flag policy, which I don't like. It's Pride Month. I think flying the flag one day for a marginalized section of our community would do wonders. And I always think of Dave Shute when it comes up to flags, and he always says, you know, I don't care what color you are, we all bleed red, and we're veterans, and we all fought together. But I always think of, what about the guy in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or the girl that was told that they couldn't serve in the military, or they did, but they had it, what was it, ask, don't tell, or whatever. Yeah. And so I just think one day out of 365 days is a small thing to ask. I just really ask you to just think about how happy people would be just to fly that flag one day. I don't think it's a big ask.
To be honest with you, I don't think it's a big ask either. The problem isn't really that we're worried about, like, we're considering people's emotions and perceptions. The reality is that we're considering actual lawsuits when we don't fly other people's flags. And that's why the policy was created. And obviously this was a policy created before my time, but I agree with the policy. You fly one flag, where does it stop? It's, you know, I get asked to fly other flags, and I just can't, because I have this policy that I have to enforce. And so, what are we gonna do, Pete, when somebody asks us to fly a different flag, and I say no, and then they bring a lawsuit? I mean, who's gonna foot that bill?
Then I'll make another, I'll ask to amend the agenda again to change our flag policy and add the pride flag to one of the flags that will be flown. Then it will be part of the policy.
Okay, so right now, though, we're on this.
No, right now we're on this, and then I'll just, so I won't discuss it anymore. I'll make another amendment. I'll ask
not in the past. So, second question, is there maybe a different option? Does it have to be the flag? Is there something else that we could consider that doesn't conflict with the policy? Just throwing it out there.
I was just asking to fly the flag. That's all.
It's a good question, it's a good option.
Yeah, just because I don't wanna go against a policy by doing that, but if there's a different option, I would welcome that discussion.
I mean, I know, like, Amy Marcella, the library director, we have the lights in front of the library, and she's gonna have them to represent Pride for June 18th or 19th, and the next day is Flag
Okay,
Day.
so she is
So
going
she's
to
gonna
do
do
that?
red, white, and blue, which, you know, is what it is, and I don't have an issue with that, but again, we have a policy. So, I mean, I'm not going against the policy that exists.
It's Kathy Harrington, I was on the board when we created that policy, and I'm fairly certain I'm the one that made the motion for the policy. And it's not because I don't support the LGBTQ community, because I do, very much so. But we have never flown any other flags, and my position was I didn't want to bring the flag wars here to Suffield. This was a number of years ago. And what we saw after that was the city of Boston, we sued successfully and had to fly flags because they were flying all flags and then turned down, I believe, a religious flag, and then were told they had to fly it because they allowed all the other flags. My position is that we shouldn't get ourselves in that business of making exceptions. Once you make one exception, somebody's gonna plead their case for another one, for another one, for another one. I like this idea of the lights on the library. I think that actually is really nice. Right in the
That sounds
center of
great.
town. And I think Claire is very thoughtful with her suggestion. If is there something else that could be done? If somebody comes up with an idea, perhaps we could consider it. But as far as this goes, we have a policy in place, and
Does the
I wouldn't change it.
I'm just curious, because I wasn't on the board when you did the policy. Does the policy include state flag?
I don't recall, actually, I'd have to
It
look it
does
up.
include other, like, it even includes if, like, our first responders have a specific flag too, which they
It
don't.
does include that.
I would have to pull it up on my phone.
Yeah.
I didn't bring it with me.
I don't have it in front of me, but I know that part, because I answer some of these questions
Yeah.
Look it up right here.
occasionally with people.
I like that idea, and I think there's people in our community who have had a difficult time because we've created such a situation, and it's a small gesture to reach out and make them part of our community, and I feel any way we can make anybody part of our community, regardless of who it is, we need to do that.
Just who's not a part of our community, no?
I'm sorry?
Who's not a part of our community?
Well,
And if you could just give
I
specific
mean, we've heard
examples.
conversations about the gay community, and I think,
Could you cite some specific examples related to Suffield?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I would like to hear. You're gonna say, you're gonna put it out there, you're gonna cite the specific
People have
examples.
said, gay members of our community have said they don't feel safe in our schools. We had somebody here say that, who was the father of a gay child.
Okay, but like flying a flag would make them feel safer then?
Well, I think it'll make them feel like this is a more welcoming community. Obviously, in that particular family, that child did not feel that way. And I know from personal experiences in the schools, that's happened with other children.
But, you know, I've heard instances where people don't feel, are uncomfortable at school, but it's not because of that. So how do we, how do we address that for them? They're gonna want us to fly something else to them, or do something else. It's just, you're citing something that's somebody's perception and feelings. So can you cite something that you know, a specific example?
Yeah, I know that
Beyond
children who are gay have been taunted and been made fun of.
I hear some
Check that.
examples of kids being taunted unfortunately every day at the schools beyond that.
But that doesn't make it right, and if there's something that we can do to reach out, to say, as a community, you're okay, you are part of our community.
And we're not saying we
Otherwise,
can't
when
do
we
stuff
don't
like
put
that,
one-
but what we're talking about is the flag, and like, if we do it for one, we have to do it for all, which is. greater
Maybe we
problem.
should. I don't know who the other ones are that you're asking about.
Well, we don't either, because we don't know until they ask, and then what happens when it's a flag that we don't, are uncomfortable with?
What I think gets lost in this discussion is that, you know, the words that we say, I feel like a lot of times people don't listen, right? Like I just said, I support the LGBTQ community, but people will look and say, because she supports that flag policy, she doesn't. And it's not true. When we passed this policy, you can go back and listen to the minutes where I became very emotional. And I said that people of that community should feel welcome here. They are welcome. We support them. That's why we came up with our diversity and our fairness statement that we came up with. And it meant a lot to me when we drafted that and we came up with it. And just because we're not going to fly the flag, and for the reason that we stated that we don't fly any other flag, we're just not going to get into the business of that. And there are other things that can be done to state that then you're not welcome here and you don't feel welcome here. You know, that's a discussion we could have with people, right? But I feel like saying that we made people feel like they're not welcome simply because we don't fly that flag, I just don't buy it, okay? Because, you know, if that's the way someone feels, I wish they would come up and talk to me personally, because I would speak with them about it and say, you are welcome. Simply because we don't fly any flag there should not make you feel any less a part of this community. And if people have shown, you know, prejudice or bigotry towards them, well, shame on them. And they should be called out for it. And no one should be subject to that. It's
Library policy exactly did that.
somebody talking on Zoom.
Anyways, that's fine.
And so I sit here and I say, it's not even worth me saying because I don't even know how many people actually listen, right? To hear the heartfelt comments that we make. You're gonna make your judgments as to who we are and what we support. And I wish we just call the motion. I call the motion, I call the vote. It doesn't even matter.
Is there, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. Motion fails 2-3.
I'd like to amend the agenda item 15B to adjust the flag policy to include the pride flag.
All right, the motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. Motion fails. Item number 16 is public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Ms. Janik?
Senator Janet, 380 Prospect Street. Kathy, I believe you. I don't think you have any, I'm not standing here saying you have anything against anyone on the LGBTQ community. I guess my comment to you is, okay, I understand your position on flag policy, but my comment to you is the original ask for the flag policy a few years ago, we asked to fly the flag for 2 hours on one day. It wasn't for an entire day, it was for a 2-hour period on one day. Again, a very small ask. But even more so than that, to answer your question, Colin, a very specific example of where you make people feel not welcome in this town. The Pride organization gifted the library a Pride banner. They chose to put it in the window, inside the library, not on a flagpole, not on the town green, inside the building. And yes, it's a state building or a town building. But nonetheless, there's a lot of things in that library that not every single person feels 100% kin to and totally feels that they want. But it's that banner was donated to the library on 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. By 9:30 Monday morning, you were calling, telling them to get it down. They violated a flag policy. Am I wrong?
Because it was a flag, and yes, you're wrong.
Excuse me?
Yes, because it was a flag, and you
No,
were
it
wrong.
was a banner, it was
I'm not
flying,
gonna
it was
get-
not
we're not gonna
flying
get
on the,
into this, Amanda.
Colin, it was flying from a window inside. It's a decoration inside the library. And Kathy, may I tell you, have you been to the library since June 1st?
No, because I don't always feel welcome there.
I'm very sorry that you don't feel welcome there. But so you do know the Pride exhibit, the library exhibit for the Pride, it consists of about 5 books. On the very top, the top shelf of the display. Little kids can't even see a half of them. And it's 5 books stuck way up there. Is that really what we call celebrating a portion of our community? I mean, seriously, we can do better, folks, honestly. And I honestly believe, I don't think any of you necessarily hate gay people or any other person. I don't. I just really think the pride flag is flying over our state capitol. And yes, we may, I just really, I understand your concern about being sued. I just think you're taking it way too far. I really, truly do. And I do not think that you really make everyone in our town feel welcome. That's my own personal opinion, and I know from the people that I speak with, that I go out and meet in our public, and I talk to, and I meet, and I know how they feel. And those people in the schools who are, yeah, they are scared. They do feel it, and you're right, people should be called out. But folks, who are the people calling them out? It's us. As long as we sit around and just say, let somebody else do it because it's something that we don't want to address, or we're afraid we're gonna get in trouble. Right has never been the easy way. Since when are we doing it now? I'm sorry, Mel and Pete, I thank you both very much for your positions tonight and standing up. I thank the rest of you for your open, at least conversation around it. That's more conversation than I've seen around a flag policy to date, and I appreciate it. Claire, I appreciate the idea of something else more in the library, but please go take a look at it. I ask you, please go take a look, and let me know if you think that really speaks to celebrating LGBTQ plus and diversity in our town. Seriously. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment in the room? I see a hand all the way in the back.
Hello.
If you just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Robert Cleary. I live on Pilgrim Lane out in West Suffield. First time meeting. Hi, everybody. New to town. Been here about 3-4 years. I live on the far end of the gravel road that has been through much consternation and repaving of half paving and not paving and potholes and numerous calls and all of that. I'd like a road. Really like a road. It'd be great. I heard there were earlier road troubles elsewhere in town tonight, which I didn't know about. Didn't know roads would be an issue, but it'd be cool if we had one. And I know that there's some back and forth between a company doing some real estate development in the area, / a cornfield, / some gravel mining, and who owns what land. We haven't really gotten clear communication. We don't really know the status of things. We hear something change, we hear something again, we hear something else. I would like a road. It would be really nice if we had a road. That's kind of all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Any other, I saw Mr. Schweitzer in the back.
Fred Schweitzer, 165 South Stone Street. I'll be brief. This whole issue of whether and how to support the LGBT community, I know is a textured issue and has lots of different facets to it. I don't doubt the sincerity of anybody on this committee. I will note that and I don't think I'm the only one, going back, I don't know, 2-3 years, after June, asked that there be some deliberation about, so what could we do? And that hasn't happened. And I appreciate what happened tonight, and it's June, and now we're butting up against concerns about lawsuits, so it looks like that isn't gonna happen. Okay, I get it. But I will say again, that I hope this is something that this group will somehow give some thought to. If I can be helpful in that endeavor, I'd be happy to. There are lots of other people in town that I know feel the same way. As I do think we can do better, and I think we should. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw another hand in the back. Gentleman with the black hat. Can you just say your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, so my name is Christopher Carnelis. I live on 287 Colony Road. Robert Bobby is one of our neighbors. And we purchased our home about 4 years ago. We did our due diligence and research and understand that the Crestview BGR construction company, when they purchased and acquired the land, were required, when the permit was over, to hand over access or the road to the town. for the town to both pave and maintain. At this time, they are no longer speaking to the town of Suffield. They're not answering anybody, returning any sort of phone calls, and we've just been kind of left in limbo. We also would really like a road. It's been a pretty big hazard to all of our vehicles. I drive a small little SUV. It gets pretty bad out there. This past winter, across the long straight section, we had roughly 6 inches of ice straight across because there's no proper drainage, there's no proper anything out there. We had vehicles off the side of the road, neighbors helping people pull people out. It was a bit of a mess. So, you know, we call the town, we ask them for help. They tell us to contact Crestview and call them to get them to hand over the road. I don't really feel like it's my job to chase a battle that I wasn't part of, a decision that I made, or anything that really involved me. This was a deal between the town of Suffield and a construction company from Southwick, Massachusetts. So I believe, you know, there should be some sort of action, some sort of recourse, to get that road handed over to the town and follow through with the agreement that was made. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room? Mr. White?
Bob Waite, 995 Newgate. When I spoke a little over an hour ago before the meeting, I brought up 6 important things that the Library Commission used to do, but don't do anymore. And I've heard some other speakers about this, and our commission, since 1972, when the building was built, was totally non-political for 48 years. Nobody knew who was Republican, nobody knew who, it didn't matter who was Republican, who was Democrat, who was United. And no member was ever removed, up until 4 years ago. And then everything changed. All of a sudden it became very political. None of the 6 commission members that you removed was a Republican, 0. 6 of the replacements that you appointed were all Republican, 0 and 6. It seems like there's a little message there. The library director and associate director both resigned, giving the reasons, the actions of the Republican selectmen. That's the reasons they left. Maybe you could fill this open position with someone who wants to help us start doing those 6 important things that we used to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room before I move to the Zoom?
Corey Dickinson, 418 Lake Road. Basically, I just want to second what they were saying about the dirt road. I moved in about a year ago, and I had a brand new car at the time and popped 3 of my tires going down the road. We recently heard about decreasing the amount of maintenance they're going to be doing on the road, and yeah, I just think we need to look at it.
All right, thank you. Any other public? Go. Back there, can you state your name and address for the record?
So, I'm Alfred Messier. I live on 333 Colony Road. I'm speaking about Lake Road and the conditions that have been there ad infinitum. The trade-offs that seem to be waiting to be made are a mystery for us right now. According to the contractor, they are waiting on the town. According to the town, they're waiting on the contractor, and the town doesn't want to sue the contractors. They want to get the job done. So apparently they want to get a road from Griffin Road over to Lake Road so they can populate that area of the cornfield. The area of the cornfield was supposed to be replaced with natural vegetation according to the original doctrine. So there's a lot about that whole affair that's not quite clear. And we're getting fewer mixed messages, more emphatic results. But there's a lot of room to maneuver. I'd just like to see if we could get a commitment going between the contractor and the town to wrap up whatever has to be wrapped up.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Stand in the back. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Grace St. Jean. I'm at 287 Colony Road. I wanted to speak about Lake Road condition as well. But furthermore, just for like the school buses, I have 3 small children who have to take the school bus at the end of Lake Road right on Copper Hill. That's a very dangerous area. People drive very fast. So my middle school child has to cross the road there due to not being able to drive down the road due to the conditions of Lake Road. Due to that, just a safety concern, as you know, there was a young 14-year-old boy who was just killed on that road from an accident on a dirt bike. The conditions of the road itself, just for our cars, have caused many tires to pop. I drive a large SUV that's made for off-road conditions. I cannot drive down that road more than maybe 5 miles per hour. It's a rumble strip. Nobody, we can contact the town to fix the potholes. They'll come out, they'll fix them. But by the next rainstorm, it's back. The road is so unsafe to drive that it takes so long to even get to the bus stop and back. I work from home. This really causes a great deal of stress to even pick up my children from the bus. Not only that, but we have no fire hydrants back there. We rely on tanker trucks to come down to us in a timely manner if any of our homes were to catch on fire. There was a house that burned down to the ground on Lake Road just due to no fire hydrants, so we do know that this is a risk. Being that the road you can only drive 3 miles, 5 miles per hour, it takes emergency personnel just as long to get down as it does for us to pick up our children, which causes a great strain. I understand that the road is owned by Crestview or BGR, who made millions off of it, but we made nothing. We have an inhabitable road. Our children don't have a safe place to even get onto the school bus to access. So I just really ask that the town really consider what Crestview and BGR are responsible for that road, and make them do their due diligence on their part, because the only people suffering are the people that live there, and while they're making X amount of dollars off of our expense. So that would be my ask.
Thank you. Any other public comment in the room? All right, any public comment in Zoom? I see a hand. Ms. Metcalf, if you could just state your name and address for the record. Ms. Metcalf, can you hear us? Ms. Metcalf?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thanks. The mute button was hidden by the way I had the screen open. So Jen Metcalf, 27 Old Farms Lane. Firstly, I'd like to support Fred Schweitzer and Tess McCool both as candidates for the Library Commission. I think Suffield would be lucky to have them. They're both devoted volunteers. They're smart, level-headed, articulate, and have exactly the kind of experience that we should be seeking on our board and commission members. I also believe that they'll help us to keep away from so much negative media and threat of lawsuits. Secondly, I'd like to say that I appreciate the efforts to explore what kind of affordable housing construction will provide the types of housing people are looking for in Suffield. And affordable housing can look like second and third floor apartments in the town center, which we used to have a lot more of actually than we do now. Seniors, young professionals, and our local businesses really like all of that access and connection in the town center. Affordable housing can look like FHA loans, home ownership programs, removing blighted and vacant buildings, adapted to housing, preserving architecture that many of us love, and then those properties start contributing to the grand list. So please continue to continue to keep supporting affordable housing. I really appreciate those efforts. As many of you already know, because you've been doing this work, a single parent who makes $94,000. I know a lot of people in Suffield that make $94,000 personally or less, and if they have 2 children, they qualify for affordable housing. So I hope that we hear these things, we stop critiquing and creating stigma around what kinds of people having bias and bigotry toward people in general. We need to support our neighbors. I looked at HUDhouses.us. The fair market rents run from $1,121 to $2,000. Renters are still spending a ton of money. I I think we can construct beautifully, orchestrate the architecture the way we want to, remove vacant and blighted buildings, and add to that grand list and do the right thing at the same time. I'm also going to thank Bill Hawkins and any staff involved for continuing to focus on pedestrian safety. As a parent of a few teens who love to walk and spend time in the town center and are starting to explore the parks and networks, I truly appreciate everything we can do to provide safety, make connection, and I do know from my own planning research that public amenities do boost the economic development in town. Finally, I'd like to encourage the board to find as many ways to support the queer community that you can, and please just don't lean on a quick decision at one meeting about the current policy just to check that box. I think all of you know that leaders in public meetings taking action says a lot. Actions speak louder than words, and so while I appreciate one-on-one conversations, and I do think people who are different with different backgrounds and experiences treat each other kindly one-on-one, but what we do publicly as leaders makes a bigger impact on the community as a whole, and I think that's part of your job when you become those types of leaders. It has more impact. Please don't give up. I encourage you to ditch the policies that no longer serve us as a community as a whole. Find a way to change the policy. Talk to Tammy Zauskowski, talk to other state reps and find out how they're doing it. Get good attorneys and fight for what's right so we can get rid of hate and bigotry in Suffield and stop making fear-based decisions. Let's creatively think together. And we have a lot of sharp people and a lot of kind people, and we have to find a way to make this work. We have to change the way our community is perceived too. I think we all want that. None of us want to hear people say, don't go to Suffield, it's unwelcoming. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom? Please scroll down real quick. All right, seeing none, I will move to item 17, which is selectmen updates. Just a reminder that the summer fair is next weekend. Town meeting is tentatively scheduled or will be tentatively scheduled for Thursday, June 26th at 7 p.m. We'll hold a public information meeting at 6 p.m. on all items. I'll have some sort of agenda for the public to see that public information meeting, so they know the items are going to be going.
Will that be here?
No, it'll be at the middle school.
I'm sorry.
It'll be at the middle school, like it's always been.
Okay.
And just for the record, all the roads that were mentioned today are privately owned, so they're not owned by the town, which makes it a little difficult with certain things, but I'll look into all that stuff.
Not the cul-de-sac though, right?
No, so after the cul-de-sac.
Right after the
privately
cul-de-sac,
owned,
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all owned by the.
But the cul-de-sac itself is still in this, right? That's
But
what
we
they said.
need them to finish the back in order to finish the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
I mean, I can remove the agreed upon island and then it can just be done tomorrow,
Yeah, okay.
which maybe that's a route we should just go. So, any other updates anybody wants to share?
I do, so is Kathy Harrington, so I don't know how many people know, probably most people do, but in May, they had a meal carrier food drive. My husband and I volunteer every year, and we love to organize the food at Suffield Emergency Aid Association. They're wonderful, welcoming people there. Nobody, if you don't know that organization, I definitely recommend that you get to know them. Reason why I bring this up is that I was very surprised at how empty the shelves were. They have had a real uptick in people using the food pantry. And so I reached out to their director after they had time to finish coordinating and organizing all the food to see what were items that they still needed that were low. So I just wanted to put it on the record in case anybody's listening and they feel they can help out and donate, which is dry dog food. We always forget, but people do have pets, right? Canned fruits, shelf-stable milk, school snacks, chicken, beef, or vegetable broth, canned tomatoes, whether whole or plum, tomato paste, mayonnaise, coffee, and ketchup. Those were the items that they were low on, so if anybody is able to help, that would be great.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks for your efforts there, too. Yeah. Anyone else want to share anything? All right, well then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.